Okay, so that's the broken piece there that I'm trying to replace. This piece over here to my right, this is a first attempt, but the steel was too thick to fit through the retainer piece here that screws on at the bottom of the guitar. So today we're going to work with this larger piece of steel that is the right diameter, and we're going to bend it into place and make it fit in that part and recreate the piece I broke. So we're going to go ahead and get started by just heating this up in a couple of spots and making some bends. So I'm going to get one side of it completely fabricated. Then I'm going to thread it through the tail retainer piece there in the center of the screen, and then we'll bend the other side into place. Started handling this thing with pliers because after the last couple heat ups it started to get pretty hot. At some point here I'll put some gloves on. Once I start cutting and grinding, the piece will definitely get too hot to handle. So I'm just doing some bending here using the pliers to get a nice tight bend in that hot steel. I have slid it through the tailpiece there. It's a great fit, and it's also giving me something to hold it that dissipates a ton of the heat. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my tap and die set, and we'll cut some threads into the left side here. I got this tap and die set off Amazon. It was like 30 or 40 bucks. I'll put an affiliate link in the description. Mine's all loaded up with the correct die because I've already practiced cutting these threads on my prototype piece to the right there that was too big. So ignore the readings on this caliper that you see on the screen. The point of this is to just show you how you can determine the thread size that you're looking for so you can choose the correct die. So standard threads, which this guitar will have because it's a Mosrite made in California in the 80s, so I highly doubt they used metric. They have two parameters. One is the diameter, which is in this case 1/8 of an inch, and the other is the number of threads per inch, which you can use the tiny little teeth on your caliper to measure the distance from valley to valley across one thread, and then divide 1 by that small decimal amount, and that will tell you the number of threads per inch. In my case, it wasn't exact. I got like 31.5, but that's close to 32. And sure enough, there was an 8/32 die in my tap and die set. So here I'm using it mounted in the jig to just crank that in circles around the end of the piece. Now you would think this takes some degree of grace and precision, but it really doesn't. The die will pull the piece of metal in as you start to turn it, so you just crank with all your might, cut those threads, and we'll go ahead and give it a test with those original nuts that came with the guitar. So it's a great fit. I'm supremely satisfied. Awesome. So let's move on to the right side here. We're going to reference the original piece and use a Sharpie to make a few marks for where we're going to bend and cut. And I'll be right back after I do a cut at the chop saw. Going to go ahead and bend the right side up now. I'm going to use the tailpiece here as like a mold. So I'm pushing it as far as I can over nice and tight to that left side. And I'm going to now heat that up and bend that right side up so that it matches. I'm going to be pretty meticulous here about where I apply my heat. I'm really just trying to get the rod to a nice red bendable state. I don't want to heat and melt the tailpiece on there. And when I go to bend the piece, I don't want it to distort or warp the thin metal of that tailpiece. So I think what I'm actually going to do is go get a little jar of water, because when I heat this thing, it's too small now and it's getting very, very hot even through that glove. All right, now that I have something to cool off this tailpiece, we're going to finish this bending work. All right, so after a few rounds of heating and bending, got the piece kind of close to the rough shape here. It's a little too long on the one side, so I'm going to go grind to the end off of it, and then we'll cut some threads for the right side. All right, I took about a 1/16 of an inch off that right side, and now I'm cutting the threads in it the exact same way I did the left side. So we'll double check that this nut fits, and then it's just time to polish and assemble. And it's worth it saying that threading these two nuts on here has to be the most supremely satisfying thing I've ever done in my short career in lutherie. So we're going to go hit the buffer and polish these burn marks off. So I'm going to use the medium grit polishing compound with my StewMac guitar buffer here. And go ahead and hit everything with the medium grit, and then on the right side out of frame there I have the very fine on another buff. So we'll hit that for a final polish. Alright, we're back at the desk for a final assembly. Super excited to see what this thing looks like with the saddle and everything in place. Got nice even spacing. Certainly looks like a factory piece. Spaced perfectly for the 2 outer retainer holes on the saddle. After doing a little bit of extra cutting that I didn't film, the threads are now deep enough that the nuts go all the way on, secure tightly. And we have a finished replacement fabricated piece. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really enjoyed doing this one. See you next time.